When Bhutan's king announced he was getting married, the entire country waited to hear one name: a royal, a noble, someone from a powerful family. But no one expected her. Jetsun Pema wasn't born into royalty. She was a student, the daughter of a pilot, living a quiet life in the mountains. So why did the king choose her over everyone else? And that choice shocked not just Bhutan, but the entire royal world. Who was this woman who went from ordinary schoolgirl to queen? What made her different? And why does she still remain such a mystery, even as the face of the Bhutanese monarchy? This is the untold journey of Queen Jetsun Pema, the commoner who became a queen, and the world is still captivated by her rise. To find out more, let's dive into Empire Elegance. Jetsun Pema was born on June 4, 1990, in Bhutan's capital city of Thimphu. Her upbringing, though happy and secure, was far from royal. Her father, Dondup Gyalchin, was a pilot for the Bhutanese government, and her mother, Aum Sonam Choki, hailed from a respected family, but was not of aristocratic or royal blood. The Pema family lived a quiet and humble life, sheltered from the spotlight that royal families usually live under. Jetsun was the second of 5 siblings, surrounded by the bustle of a loving family. While the world around her was filled with the laughter of children and the noise of a close-knit home, Jetsun's demeanor stood out from the start. She wasn't one to seek attention. Instead, she had a quiet, calm nature that immediately made an impression. Where other children were full of energy, Jetsun was observant. She listened more than she spoke, and when she did speak, her words were thoughtful and considered. Teachers at school often described her as graceful, attentive, and deeply focused. Her peers admired her kindness, her humility, and how she treated everyone with respect, no matter their background. She didn't try to stand out, she simply did. She wasn't consumed with ambition or social pursuits. Yet, even as a young girl, there was a quiet power about her, one that people could feel, but could never quite explain. Jetsun's upbringing was devoid of scandal or drama. There was no sensational narrative that accompanied her early life. She wasn't the star of a royal court, nor was she thrust into the limelight for any specific reason. She was simply Jetsun, and it was this unassuming nature that would later prove to be her greatest strength. No one could have predicted that this gentle, calm child would one day wear the crown. But for those who had the privilege of knowing her, they would say there was something uniquely special about Jetsun, something that would eventually make her the perfect match for Bhutan's king. Jetsun's path was never dictated by the grandeur of royalty. It was shaped by her own thirst for knowledge and her family's deep belief in the importance of education. While many of her peers were expected to follow traditional roles in Bhutan's close-knit society, Jetsun had an open mind and a burning curiosity about the world beyond Bhutan's borders. Her formal education began at the Little Dragon School in Thimphu, where she laid the foundation for a future that would soon stretch far beyond the confines of the kingdom. Her academic prowess quickly became evident, and she excelled in all subjects. But beyond the classroom, it was Jetsun's quiet, reflective personality that set her apart from others. Her teachers described her as someone with an almost otherworldly level of poise, maturity, and attention to detail. At the age of 14, her family sent her to St. Joseph's Convent in Kalimpong, India. This marked a significant step in her development, as it took her far from the comforting landscapes of Bhutan. The bustling town of Kalimpong, nestled in the Indian Himalayas, was a far cry from the peaceful quiet of Thimphu. Living in a foreign country, Jetsun had to learn to navigate a completely new culture, all while adapting to the demands of a rigorous education system. It was here that she first encountered the complexities of life beyond Bhutan's borders, experiences that would shape her into the poised, worldly figure she would eventually become. But the next chapter in her life would take her to even greater heights, both literally and figuratively. Jetsun continued her education at the Lawrence School in Sanawar, one of the most prestigious boarding schools in Asia. Nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas, Sanawar's rigorous academic environment and elite reputation provided Jetsun with an education that was far more international in scope. Here, she studied English, history, economics, and geography, subjects that not only prepared her for the world stage, but also broadened her understanding of the interconnectedness of nations. Despite the competitive, modern world that surrounded her at school, Jetsun remained firmly grounded in the values she had learned growing up: humility, kindness, and an unwavering sense of inner peace. These qualities set her apart from many of her peers, who were more concerned with status, social standing, and career advancement. Jetsun was never interested in any of that. She simply wanted to learn, to grow, and to be of service to others. By the time she returned to Bhutan, Jetsun was no longer the shy, reserved girl who had left. She had transformed into a poised, confident young woman who had seen and experienced life beyond Bhutan's borders, yet she retained her Bhutanese values. The people of Bhutan began to take notice of her beauty, her intelligence, and her remarkable ability to remain humble despite all of her accomplishments. But it wasn't just her education or her poise that set her apart. There was something else, something deeply personal, that would tie her destiny to the throne. The love story between Jetsun Pema and King Jigme Khesar, Namgyel Wangchuck, didn't begin with a royal proposal or an arranged marriage. It began with a childhood promise, a playful, innocent exchange between a young girl and a future king. Jetsun was just 7 years old when she first met the future king, Crown Prince Jigme Khesar. He was in his 20s, already poised to become the next ruler of Bhutan. Years passed. Jetsun grew up, and so did the prince. But in an uncanny twist of fate, their paths kept crossing. As Jetsun entered college, the two of them began spending more time together, not because of political or royal obligations, but because of a deeper, more personal connection. They found a bond in each other, one that wasn't about duty or obligation. It wasn't a marriage arranged for political reasons. No, this was something real, something natural. And as their relationship blossomed, so did their love for one another. In May 2011, when Bhutan's king Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuck announced his decision to marry Jetsun Pema, it rocked the country to its very core. The king stood before the Bhutanese parliament and declared that he had chosen Jetsun to be his future queen. What made this announcement so extraordinary wasn't just the fact that Jetsun was not from a royal lineage, but that the king spoke of her qualities, her intelligence, her kindness, and her inner strength. He spoke not of her bloodline, but of her soul. The people of Bhutan were stunned. The announcement seemed to defy everything they thought they knew about royalty. Here was a king who was choosing a woman who was not from a traditional royal family, but from a simple, modest background. Yet, the moment the news broke, it felt like the universe had conspired to bring them together. On October 13, 2011, Jetsun Pema was crowned Queen of Bhutan in a ceremony steeped in tradition and humility. The coronation took place inside the ancient Punakha Dzong, a sacred site for the Bhutanese people. But what stood out the most was the simplicity of the event. There were no extravagant banquets or Western-style celebrations. There was no media frenzy, no multi-million-dollar dresses. Instead, there was something far more powerful, a profound sense of peace, unity, and tradition. Jetsun wore the traditional Bhutanese kiri, the elegant silk dress that symbolizes the country's heritage. She didn't walk ahead of the people, but with them, symbolizing her connection to the land and its people. It was a moment of deep reflection, a reminder that her role as queen wasn't to dominate, but to serve. Since her coronation, Queen Jetsun Pema has redefined what it means to be a monarch. She doesn't rule from a palace afar. She walks among the people. She visits villages, spends time in hospitals, and speaks to the children of Bhutan. Whether comforting a mother, advocating for women's rights, or promoting education, she remains humble and grounded. Her life is one of service. Jetsun Pema's story is not one of privilege. It's one of presence. From a quiet child in a small, peaceful kingdom to the Queen of Bhutan, her journey shows us that greatness doesn't always wear a crown. It sometimes earns it. She didn't seek power, but through humility, strength, and compassion, she became a queen who represents the heart of her people. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Empire Elegance and hit the notification bell for more powerful stories of the world's most influential figures. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in our next video.